if you're setting like in Eclipse, what is set is 40 microvolt. So anything above 40 microvolt will get rejected. Plus or minus 40 will get rejected. So that's the artifact rejection. But in the Eclipse system, it's no big deal with the artifact rejection because it's using that Bayesian weighted averaging. I'll come to that. But in other equipment which doesn't have this weighted averaging, this artifact rejection is very important. They're generally set really low, like 18 microvolt or 28 microvolt. They're not set at 40. Because the Eclipse system uses that Bayesian weighted averaging, artifact rejection can be set a little higher. Whereas other equipment, it's set lower, like 18, 20 microvolts. Okay? And whereas that Bluetooth equipment, Bluetooth ABR equipment, Vivasonic, it has variable artifact rejection. Depending on the EEG, it adjusts by itself.
Is that proprietary to
Yeah, they have their own kind of special filter, adaptive artifact rejection window and all that. So artifact is anything other than the signal. Noise, anything other than the signal is an artifact. If you see an artifact, again, so far you have not come across some serious artifacts in the recording, mainly those electrical ones. You have to identify where it is coming from. If you have larger electrical equipment where you do the ABR, you just turn on and off, see whether it's been picked up by the equipment. And also, you can also, that's to identify the source. First you need to identify the source of that. If you have a fan, if you have a light, just turn off the light and see whether that get rid of the electrical artifact. Turn off the fan and see whether they get rid of that. There's other kind of high voltage equipment around your space. Turn them off and see whether that helps you out. If it's still there, one of the manipulation you can do is like around the transducer, the insert, you can put a metal shield. Okay, it's called shielding. You put like a steel casing or a new metal casing that's like an alloy. So you put like a casing on surrounding the transducer. That will eliminate the stimulus artifact. Okay, and in some of these setup, they may have kind of a special system to cut down the electrical activity within the room. They may have a special like a looping to cut down those electrical activity. Okay. So that is to identify the source and trying to eliminate the artifact contamination with your response. And the next, you can actually modify some of the setups, modify the parameters. One of them is the 60 Hertz notch filter. If you see electrical artifact, turn on that notch filter, that may help you. If your artifact is above like you might see like 1500 Hertz. One time I would see an artifact at 1620 Hertz. That was the largest artifact, it's a multiple of 60 Hertz. I don't know why that was there. So all the recording, we just set it below 1500 Hertz. So you can modify some of those recording parameters, okay, to set up the recording parameters to mitigate those artifact issues. And the third approach is artifact rejection. That's like setting up the window where you want to accept the response. So artifact rejection design is based on sensitivity setting of the amplifier. So if you set it as 40 microvolt, any response which is greater than plus 40 will be rejected, or anything between plus 40 to minus 40 will be accepted. Outside of that range will be rejected. Okay. So that's artifact rejection is quality control. Okay, it's a QC. Okay. If it falls outside of that range, it will be rejected. Okay. Again, it helps, especially when there is a lot of movement, that helps with that. Okay. So this is very specific to Eclipse, which is the Bayesian weighted averaging. So, can you say it loud? Okay. So it's a weighted averaging. This is the promotional slides what they had from interacoustics. Baseline weighted is an averaging technique that deals with changes in the patient's state. Because the noise level fluctuates over time. So if you set a fixed artifact rejection, how does it account for this variation in the EEG levels? Okay. By using this Bayesian weighting, you can obtain more cleaner recordings than in typical test situation. And you do not have your mouse on pause. Earlier when I used to do ABR with other equipment, I used to always have my mouse underneath the pause button. If there's a movement, or I just pause, wait for it to subside and start again. Nowadays, with the Eclipse, you don't even do that because of Bayesian weighting. In any other equipment, what happens, like now most of the newer one, they may have this kind of settings. What happens, you may see a response, if they start moving, your response disappears because there's a lot of noise got in, it all disappeared. That's why it was very important to pause the recording to retain your response. Okay, so with using this Bayesian weighting, audiologists will not have to hover over pause during the recording. Obtain data in suboptimal test situation. Again, it all depends. If it is a lot of noise throughout the recording, that will not help. Okay. And also, there is some research studies which have shown that the signal is there is improvement in the signal to noise ratio, so it's like faster test time by using this Bayesian weighting. So what is this Bayesian weighting? It's first described by Elberling and Walgreen, 1985. It's developed to address the changes in the patient state. What it does is, for each average, it gives a weighting. Okay, that based on that mathematical equation, based on the relationship between signal and noise in that each average, it gives a weighting. Okay. What it does is it gives sweeps collected in noisy situation less weighting. So a recording which have high noise will have less weighting. Recording which have low noise will have more weighting. Okay, it uses that kind of algorithm to give that preferential weighting. Look at this with the traditional averaging. So this is the artifact rejection window. This sweep will be rejected. This sweep will be rejected. This will be rejected. This will be let in. All of this will be let in. But you can see the variability in the EEG across the recording. In the traditional averaging, each sweep is given a weighting of 1. Okay, equal weighting. Okay. So if you compare these two averages, this is a really good quality with low noise, whereas this is with more noise. Both of them are given equal weightage in the traditional averaging. Okay. One of the challenges with traditional averaging is, where do you want to put the artifact rejection window? Whether you want to put it at 40 microvolt. 40 microvolt is too high. Generally, without Bayesian weighting, the artifact rejection is generally set to like 18 or 20. So there's a confusion about where do you want to put the artifact rejection. Okay. And also another challenge is, all the sweeps are treated equally. Okay. Whereas with Bayesian weighting, it does that computation. Whatever see this sweep at a high noise, it's given only 4% weighting. This sweep at like very low noise, it's given 90% weighting. Again, this sweep has more noise, it's given 10% weighting. So for each sweep, depending on the signal and the noise, it's a different weighting is given. And also you can use a little higher artifact rejection level when you're using Bayesian weighting. Because even if it is like a noisier average, noisier recording, noisier sample, it doesn't interfere with your average because it's given very low weighting. With high noise, it may be given 2% weighting, 1% weighting. If it is a really good low noise, it may have like 90, 95% weighting. Okay, so it doesn't disrupt your average. Okay, when your patient starts moving, when your subject starts moving, scratching, there's like high EEG activity that doesn't disrupt your average, because some will get rejected, which are below like 40. It will be let into the average, but it will be given very low weightage. Okay. So the solution is that by using Bayesian weighting, you can set the artifact rejection very high, because all sweeps are not treated equally. All sweeps are weighted. Sweeps with high residual noise will be given low weighting. Low residual noise will be given high weighting. See, in India, there is the president of the country is elected by the elected representatives. President is not directly elected by, because the prime minister is elected directly, but the president is elected by the elected members, like all the senators and representatives. So if you are a senator, you have 4 votes. If you are a House of Representatives, then you'll have 2 votes. If you're like a local, like state senator, like on a state representative, you've got 1 vote and all that. So there is like distribution, like not, so there, votes are different, like the weighting is different. So with Bayesian weighting, each average is weighted differently. Do you have something like that? I think in Democratic, I've seen some primary and all, some delegates, some state.
It's the electoral college.
Electoral college, but some delegates have higher vote. No?
It depends on how many, the population of the state.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
It doesn't make any sense.
It's a different system. There is also another, some delegates, like when they choose the candidate, some delegates have higher votes. No, it's not like that. Maybe I'll look at it. Because some states, some delegates, they have more votes to pick the primary candidate. So Bayesian weighting, it's a weighted average. The weightage is given on that signal to noise relationship, applying that Bayesian weighting. There is a research done, like there was evidence in 1980s, but it was only implemented in like 2000, 2010. Okay. So here is the main findings from this 1985 studies. The weighted averaging is always as good as or better than traditional averaging. And in about 30% of the cases, the weighted averaging improves the recovered ABR significantly over what is obtained by traditional averaging. In these cases, the traditional average would require almost 50% more sweeps. Okay. So that means in 30% of the cases, the traditional average would need 50% more sweeps. So another bottom line is, if the patient is quiet, asleep, it doesn't matter whether you have a traditional or Bayesian weighted, both of them will be good enough. But if they are noisy, the EEG is noisy, then probably that's when the Bayesian weighting is helpful. And also if you have like those sporadic noise events during the recording, even that this Bayesian weighting would help. So who wants to answer this?
All of the above.
So Bayesian weighting, it reduces need to pause the recording as patient state changes. It reduces number of sweeps needed. It allows for higher artifact rejection setting. Answer is all of the above. Okay. So So it actually makes you lazy. Really, you're like, because if you use like biologic or other equipment where they don't have this Bayesian weighting, you should pause the recording. Otherwise, your your recording will all disappear. You would see just noise. That's why I've seen like when you're recording, okay, you see wave 5, just pause, like stop it, mark your peak, because if you continue averaging, if there's any noise, it'll obscure the response. Whereas with Bayesian weighting, it's much safer. Any noisy event, it's not significantly affect the response.
So do we have that on our clips?
Yeah, it's already all the recording what you have done.
I was just wondering, because today you told Nacho to pause it.
Not to?
You told Nacho to pause it when we were doing HEPA, because her noise got really loud and you told her to pause it.
Yeah, I paused it. Like again, it's better you pause it because it's gonna be all noisy.
Mm-hmm.
So your question was, I told you to pause, right?
Yeah.
So because like, you know that it's all high EEG, it'll be all noise.
Mm-hmm.
When you can, you pause it.
Okay.
But otherwise, like suddenly it's maybe like, okay, there's a movement of leg, crying, only for like 5 seconds, and it came back.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is about the Bayesian weighting. The ABR you might also seen, have you seen that correlation or reproducibility window on the left? Have you seen that? It changes percentage like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Have you seen that? So that's another objective metric. In the ABR x-axis, have you seen a sliding bar underneath like this?
It's under the sweeps, right?
Not under the under the time window.
No, averaging not.
Yeah, this is like 0, like say 0 to 20 millisecond here. Certain bar there is like a little highlighted one. Have you seen that? So say here. So this, that reproducibility, it's also a correlation. So this sliding bar here, you can manipulate that. You can have the mouse around that, you can extend, okay? What it is looking for that is, within that window, it's looking for the correlation between A and B, your split buffer A and B. If the two recordings, if it is going up or going negative, positive or negative, if it is matching, then your reproducibility is going to be very high. If it is noise, random, one is going up, another one is going down, it's going to be very low correlation. Okay, so that's why you need to adjust that window. You need to set that window where your wave 5 is, or where your response is. Because it changes with intensity, it changes with the stimulus frequency. So that's why you need to adjust this. We never done that. Probably next time we'll look at it. The ideal number what you're looking for is 70%. They are correlated by 70% or higher, it's a response. And it's not that sensitive like the FMP. You can't just depend on that. If that correlation is more than 70, probably it would have reached the FMP, or it would have reached the 3 signal to noise ratio. Okay. So that reproducibility is measuring the correlation between the split A and B buffer. It's matching how these two A and B are correlating within that window. That's why you need to adjust that window according to your wave 5. Wherever you are marking the wave 5, move the slide around that. Okay.
It's the correlation between the
The
rarefaction and the condensation.
If you're using alternating, if you're using just rarefaction only, the A and B, so it's correlating between A and B. And this correlation also very important metric in OEEs, autoacoustic emissions. It always does that. in your analysis response display, it will always have the correlation values. So this, you can have the mouse here, you can extend it, okay. Wherever you want, wherever your wave 5 is, you can just adjust it. So that's the, I think I already discussed about the digital filtering. One of the recommendation is to have much broad digital, like broad analog filtering, then you can apply digital filter, display filter, digital filter to whatever filtering of interest. And that's a lot. If you want to do it, you can do it. And smoothing is to remove unwanted frequency. Again, if you see like waveform with a lot of this high frequency energy here, you can just decrease the low pass. You can see that the response will look more smooth. Again, this is your preference. Like especially like low frequencies, up to, if you have like up to like 3000 hertz, you see a lot of this kind of high frequency energy. So you can set the low pass to like 1500. In some cases, you can adjust it to 1000. Okay. I think below 1000, you will be really careful. You should be really cautious. Below 1000, you may over smooth the response. You may take out some of the response, like some of the wave 5. So you adjust your high pass whenever there is a baseline shift, whenever there is like a slow wave, okay? And adjust your high pass if there's a lot of, adjust your low pass when there's a lot of high frequency energy, okay? If you want to smooth the response, you can adjust your low pass. So here is a summary. So today's class and the last class, what we discussed was all to improve the signal to noise ratio. So one of the questions in the exam was, why do you need to average thousands of sweeps to record an ABR? What is your answer? Why could you just average like one? Just one play clip?
Improve SNR.
Because the ABR is really tiny response compared to the ongoing EEG or residual noise. So because of that, you need to average thousands of sweeps to be able to extract the ABR. So these are all the different techniques we discussed. The main purpose of this is to improve the signal to noise ratio, reduce the noise, and to improve the signal to noise ratio. The differential amplification, filtering, averaging, artifact rejection, Bayesian weighting, the smoothing, all of that is to improve the signal to noise ratio. With doing all this, we have some challenges. Okay?
Getting closer to get the 10.
So how to save ABR time? This is the last slide. How to save ABR test time? How can you, because when you're testing, you may have very like 40 minutes time window, 40-45 minutes in the natural sleep to complete all your recording. Like record with click, ideally with 500, 1000, 2000, 4000 for both ears, like 10 stimulus. How do you do that? Saving time is very important.
Be prepared. So always pay attention to noise or EEG. Averaging.
Yeah, averaging, what about averaging?
To not do it too much if we could see like a peak that we could just take, or we're confident.
Yeah, if you feel like there is a response present, repeating. And also, no need to use like fixed steps, like, okay, I want to go 10 dB below, 20 dB below. Okay? So, if you see a response, like clear response for waveform, like you started to click around like 70, 80 decibel, you see 135, you can go down like 50 decibel below, like go down to 30 or 40. So, and have your stimulus present around where you expect to see a response. Okay. So how to save time? One of the most important thing is preparedness. Have all your supplies, your electrodes, your equipment is ready to go. No need to don't be troubleshooting, looking for electrodes, looking for gel and all that. You also need to monitor EEG. If depending on the equipment, depending on how long it stays, you have to pause it. Okay. And discontinue averaging when clear response is detected. That's very important. And also you should always plan ahead. When you're recording for first recording, you should always have a plan about what will be the next step. And always record, the recording should go all the time. Whatever you're marking the peak, whatever you're thinking about the response, that all should happen during the recording. So that's why I think in the Eclipse you can select 70, 30. After the 70 fixed, whatever the set average is finished, it will go to the next level by itself. So you can use that. So if there's a clear ABR at high intensity, then present 30, 40, 50 dB lower. Okay. And also there is no need to record ABR at 23.5, 17.57, 23.5 and all that. You can average play at faster repetition rate because Wi-Fi is stable till 40 clicks per second. So we can go at faster rate up to 37.7, 39.9 and all that. Okay. Take every opportunity to save time. Okay. Because it's like testing baby is like a time bomb. When the baby wakes up, starts crying, then it's over. Then the family have to come one more time. So it's not convenient. Okay. So that's it about section, what is this, section 5, okay? See, also I'm going to distribute your midterm. Okay. So again, so I did really strict grading. Okay. There will be an opportunity for you to improve your scores. Again, please don't take any pictures or anything. What you can do is you can answer the correct answers